Sam Williamson.
Hey, Darin, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Calm down. Calm down. I'm super excited to have you on the show because, well, many reasons, because you're fucking awesome and you're an everyday GSD motherfucker and you have been for a long time. But I've been drinking your wine for several years now. We met a while ago, but I drink this on the show most of the time. And, 15 minutes ago, we just went into the cellar and hand-picked out one of your bottles of wine. Well, we already drank one, but you just picked out another one, this beautiful cab. So we're going to talk about wine today.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about a lot of cool shit that you do in California, in Africa. You've got some cool projects that you work on. You were part of, the Under 30...
Yeah, I'm part of an organization that helps at-risk youth in Sonoma County.
So we're gonna talk about all that stuff. But before we do any of that, I was gonna toast you, but I don't know if you noticed I got some new swag up here.
I saw the new swag. It's really nice. I like the new stuff, but I'm one of the few people in the world that have an original hat.
Oh,
I know. I was here a couple years ago, and they just came in the door, and I was like, I got to get one of the originals.
Let me see that.
Yeah. I'm jealous. I want one.
That's an OG hat right there.
We'll have to auction that off.
Not for all the money in the world. Yeah.
I love it. No, I mean, that's awesome because, because you've been getting shit done for a while. An early adapter. That's great. We can put that wherever you want. But I was just going to brag to you about if you do a good job on the show, there might be a little gift for you at the end.
Oh, well, thank you.
We'll see.
It might have to be a trade-in.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Okay, so family's from Australia.
Yep.
I'm gonna try to give my version of what I think, and then you're gonna just open up and share the whole cabinet to us. So parents went to California in like 1979, 1980-ish, and they fell in love with California or wine, or what made them leave Australia, come to California, and have one of the most successful wineries that obviously you're 100% involved in, and we're going to talk about that too. But how did this all start?
Well, so my parents are like the original GSDs in my family.
Okay.
They had a business going in Australia, and they gave it all up and ran away to America and got eloped in California.
Okay.
With nothing. They literally sold everything and came with a couple of suitcases and a job opportunity in technology. And so in the early 80s, it was like the new boom of Silicon Valley. It was very it was the best part of the world for technology. And so they moved there and they started a couple of companies in the mid 80s, and then they sold them and they retired. They got shit done, and then they decided to go move to Hawaii. And they were there 6 weeks.
Hawaii, 6 weeks.
Yep. And they said, not a chance. We're too young to retire. We're going to go back and we're going to start again. And so they bought the original vineyard back in 1990 when I was just a baby. And we never did anything with it except grow the fruit. And we sold the fruit off, and they worked every single day. We would come up on weekends. My dad taught me how to drive the tractor when I was 3 years old. I still drive the same one. And
amazing.
Yep. And then when I was 7.
So you're hands-on.
Oh yeah, totally. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We manage a whole bunch of different vineyards now, and we go into each one of them, design the protocols for each one of them, and make sure that everything is perfect. Because that's where great wine starts, in the vineyard. Right? You start with the dirt, and work your way all the way to the end. And
we're going to talk about the vineyard lifestyle because at the end of the day, you're farming.
Yep. Right.
But you're also dealing with. You're not just farming corn like in Indiana. You're farming a product that's being sold around the world, but you're dealing with people of all different levels of life. You could be dealing with a CEO that's a billionaire, or another farmer that's a billionaire.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're secret billionaires. Tied up in land, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean it's a really difficult business to kind of get your head around all aspects of, because there's a whole bunch of people that stay farming, there's a whole bunch of people that stay in the winemaking, and then there's a whole nother demographic of people that just sell wine. And so what we've done is we've basically done all of those into one business, because that's the only way to make the best product that we possibly can, is to control all of the aspects of it.
Okay.
And so when I go and talk to people, you don't know. Sometimes you walk into a room of 20 people that are all interested in wine, but one of them could be a billionaire, and one of them could just be a really lovely family that love drinking great wine every day. And there's you can't approach them any differently. They're absolutely all great wine drinkers, and that's the thing they have in common. And then you custom tailor your like style of talking to them after you get to know them for a while.
Like my mom says, everyone puts their pants on one leg at a time.
Exactly right. Yeah. And that's more true, I think, when it comes to drinking wine, especially great wine, than anything else, because appreciation for wine is something that you develop, and it's a skill, and it's learned. So you don't just, get born rich and drink great wine. It really is one of those things that people build an appreciation for.
So they come back from Hawaii, right?
Yep.
You're a little kid. You're on the tractor. You're 3 years old. You're learning the trade, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And you're obviously going to school and you're doing things. You were a race car driver for a small stint.
Yeah, that was when we came back. So when I was really young, they sent me to an all French speaking school. So for the first 2 years of my formal education, it was all in French, which is weird when you're 3, 4, or 5 years old. That's all you hear in the classroom all day.
Je m'appelle Didier.
The fucking French master over here.
Yeah, I'll have to Google that. Yeah.
Bonjour. My French Canadian family listening to this, they're like, Darin, go ahead, say something in French. Yeah. I know a prayer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the whole thing, but the Hail Mary. Je salue Marie, pleine de grâce, le Seigneur est avec vous, vous êtes bénie entre vous. Oh man, I just lost it. That's probably why I didn't do so well in Catholic school.
Well, what you need is more of the sacrament.
Yeah.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Ce soir. Shit, this is a French show now.
It's a great French show now, yeah.
Totally side note, we're going to jump back into it, but I just got a call from my cousin the other day who lives in Oklahoma. He's from Montreal. He's amazing. But it's so funny because he still has a very thick French accent. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, he used to live in Indiana, in Terre Haute for a little while. And, he's a great cousin of mine. And it's interesting because I can only imagine when he's ordering a glass of wine or a beer at the bar in Oklahoma, they're like, what did that guy just say? And, but the ladies are like, oh, his accent's so sexy.
Yeah. What is that vin rouge stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, shout out to you, Stefan. I love you, brother. Okay. So.
So anyway, when I was very young, when I was 7, my parents got a great opportunity to move back to Australia. My dad.
And this is Perth?
No. They were in Sydney. My mom was actually born in Manly, one of the few people born in the Manly Hospital. And my dad is from the middle of nowhere in New South Wales. And so if you think about like Sydney is San Francisco, he's from Utah, and it's
gotcha.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But he grew up on a cattle ranch and sheep farm, and then he moved to the big city when he was 16 and got a degree in physics and then another degree in computer science, and then just never went back. He loved education. He loved building companies and things like that.
Well, he's an extremely intelligent man.
Yeah.
And besides an amazing winemaker, your whole family, but he's extremely intelligent. I remember having a conversation at an event that you guys had, I don't know, a bunch of years ago I was at. And I remember leaving the conversation feeling smarter just by talking to him.
Yeah, he's a fascinating guy. He was actually one of the first people in all of Australia to get a degree in computer science and then put it into effect.
Right.
So he started his first company right then and there, and it was hugely successful. But then he ended up selling it because he met my mom, and that's why they wanted a new life.
Yeah. And he and your mom instilled the everyday GSD lifestyle in you, because at the end of the day, you could be this little rich kid out in California fucking off, drinking dad and mom's wine, but you're not.
Nope. Kind of the opposite, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's take COVID and all that bullshit out. On an average year, how often are you traveling?
I travel a lot. So I travel a lot for work, especially. Not a lot of vacation time, but I enjoy what I do. So it's, that balance that you get. But realistically, I'd be some years pre-COVID, 200 days on the road. Right. Selling wine, bouncing city to city. Yep. Like yesterday I was in Dallas. So like I still kind of get back to it now that COVID's, gone, not a thing, I guess, for a lot of people. Yeah. And so so that's been my constant, work ethic that they really put into what I do every day. And then when I'm there, it's the same. It's do whatever you need to do. Get up early, keep moving.
Right. Yep. So you're 15, 16 years old. You've been driving the tractor. You're tilling the fields. I don't know what they say. Justin probably over there shaking his head, going, "That's not how you call it in farming grapes, Darin."
Yeah.
Sorry, Justin.
Sorry. So get back to
find
the
yourself.
story.
Find yourself in a car. I interrupted.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. So we moved back to Australia and we lived there right on the beach. And my parents worked there for a while, and then my dad came back in the fall of '99, and he said, I think it's time to sell the property because we were moved to Australia. We made a life. Our son's 12. What are we going to do with the rest of our time? And he came at exactly the wrong time. Came during harvest. All of his winemaker buddies took him out drinking, showing him their wineries. And Healdsburg, this little tiny town that we live in, wasn't a little tiny town anymore. It used to be a motorcycle, bar, and like cattle town. Like you couldn't walk up to a bar without your cowboy boots, on. And now they had just built this beautiful brand new hotel. The first like world-class restaurant had gone in. And he called my mom and he said, "What do you think about moving back to America? We can give up the Australian lifestyle and we'll start making wine. And we'll actually retire like we intended to 10 years before that." And she said, "I've already started packing the bags." So he went back in October, and by February we were back in America. And our first vintage was 18 months later. And that was by the time I was about 13, 14. And I grew up doing it with him every step of the way. So,
right.
And that's where I really learned the winemaking craft is directly from him firsthand. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to say this wrong. Second generation winemaker?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, because my dad and I make all the wines together. So he's the first and I'm the second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to go back to wine because let's face it, your wine's fucking good. And when this show's over, we're going to continue drinking more wine for anyone who's listening, because that's what we do when we're together.
Yep.
But race car, how did this even start?
Yeah. So I had raced go-karts for a little bit and in Australia, and then I came back to America, and my mom thought as a joke she'd buy me this highway survival thing because she didn't want her 14-year-old kid going and getting his license and driving on the mean roads of California without any type of experience. And I was like, "Mom, I know, I've been driving cars for years," and she's like, "That's not the same." And so I went and did this event at the Sonoma Raceway with a whole bunch of professional drivers, some of which I kind of already knew, and they did, at the end of the day, they did this Race the Pros. And the guy sets the lap time, this professional driver that works there, and I was 2 seconds faster than him. And they're like, "You should come back." And so I went and did a scholarship runoff, and I ended up getting second in it. And they gave me a whole bunch of like seat time. And I said, "Well, from there we gotta build it. That's the first step. And so I got my racing license. I actually worked every day in the tasting room, saved up all my pennies, from whatever mom and dad were willing to pay me for washing dishes. And I also got a job as an arborist because, it didn't pay for the big race car bills.
Those of you who don't know what an arborist is, Justin's shaking his head. Yeah. Ready?
Trees, bro.
Trees,
yeah.
bro.
Yeah, so
trees.
So when I was 14, I was climbing up trees with chainsaws and working with my best friend, actually. His dad owned the company. And saved up all my pennies, and I went back to the racetrack, got my license, and then I signed up to race these cars, and I looked at myself and I was like, "Hey, how are you going to pay for that? You signed up. You got 6 months. You got to pay for it." And so I tapped every resource that I possibly could. I banged on doors. I did everything I possibly could. Went to the bank that was financing some of the projects that we were doing, and I said, "Hey, I'm new, but I think that I have a good possibility of doing a good job. Give me some money." And I was 17, I think, by the time I was driving professionally. I didn't make any money, but I wasn't paying for it myself. I had sponsors and like the whole deal. And I raced Formula 3 for a full year. And it's great wine, huh?
That's fucking good.
It's the fuel that made the race cars work, Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of interruptions today, Justin, with red wine.
Yeah.
Down with that.
Down with that.
Yeah, so long and the short of it is I basically did that for a while, and then I did it while I was in college as well. I went to Sonoma State because they have the only accredited program for wine business.
I'm assuming you're a sommelier.
Do you know, ironically, I never went and did sommelier or any of those division courses because I lived it. I literally lived it every single day of my life,
Right.
They work to educate themselves on winemaking, wine regions, tasting wine, but that was just my job. So I was already doing
second nature to you.
Yeah, it's second nature. So, and that's the best way to learn for me. I'm hands-on all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember going out to not your tasting room, the actual, I guess I say farm, it's not right. The
vineyard, yeah.
The vineyard, and you guys were dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really know what I was going to expect when I got there. I flew into that little airport,
the Santa Rosa Airport.
Santa Rosa Airport. You picked me up, and maybe your dad. I don't remember who. There was a group of us, meaning like group or you guys, and it was in a pickup truck, and it was like gotta go. I got work to do. I'll be done in like, you know,
we
7, 8 o'clock at night.
We can go and party after I got to go and do some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we partied all night. And then the next morning I remember getting up, and I'm an early riser. And I remember getting up and the house was empty. I stayed at the
guest house.
Yeah, one of your places, right? Yeah. And I'm butchering this story, but I remember waking up and the place was quiet. All of you guys were out working.
Yep.
And it might have been 7 a.m, you know, maybe 8.
Yeah, if it needs to get done, it needs to get done. Right?
And then, you know, there was a note like, here, you know, help yourself to any food you want, and we'll.
Fridge is empty anyways.
Yeah.
These are great restaurants to go to for breakfast. Yeah.
There's a chef that will be in here later.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean that's just kind of the lifestyle. You know, you do what you need to do, and especially when you're small, family-owned business. We never had any partners. We've never done any of that stuff. So we literally bootstrapped the entire thing from the ground up. And I remember the days. You know, now I have 40 employees, but I remember the days 40. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, we have a whole bunch of different tasting rooms and locations all over Healdsburg and Dry Creek Valley. But I remember the days when it was just my mom and dad and I standing in the tasting room, and we were doing everything ourselves, from washing glasses all the way through making wine to selling wine to running the wine clubs and doing all of the work, you know, on back end, front end, doesn't matter what end, we have to do it.
Yeah. And I've sent guys out there. I mean, one of my good friends was in the military with me, still in. I won't say his full name for obvious reasons, but Fox, you know who I'm talking about.
Yes, of course.
And great fucking dude.
Amazing guy. And his whole family is amazing.
Yeah. He went out to do a wine tasting, and you guys took care of him, and he still talks about it. He still gets your wine, and he's
actually been a couple of times. He came mid COVID too, and we had to shut down the whole place because they had a whole bunch. They had like 10 people, and that was back in the days when California was like, you can't have more than 10 people.
Yeah,
and I was like, all right, well, that's fine. You know,
like, that's
take care of friends, right?
You're like, place is closed then.
Yeah, place is closed.
Fox and team can come.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so you do a lot of charity work.
Do.
I started Sweep Away Cancer, which we'll have that put on here. I know Justin gets mad when I do that, but I like to do
you
that.
Do the Vanna White all the time?
Yeah.
Imagine if you will.
Yeah. Sweep Away Cancer. We basically help people affected by cancer we raise money by doing events, and then people put in an application for funds to help them. They're either affected by cancer, so we can help pay their rent or a car payment or something to give them just a little bit less stress. We raise quite a bit of money. We try to, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not really a lot of money compared to other charities, but it's all volunteers. And I'm telling that story because you got involved at the ground level back. We started in 2015, I believe. Tommy Nelms and Mark Stoner out of Nashville area. And I remember when you got involved, you immediately shipped probably $30,000-$40,000 worth of wine for an event at Anthony's Chop House. And I might be exaggerating the dollar amount, but it was an amazing amount of wine.
Yeah, I think it was 15 cases I shipped out.
Yeah.
To multiple events that
all
had planned.
Great wine. And then I asked you, when we were all done, I go, how much do I owe you? Because, obviously the charity makes the money and then we pay everyone who got involved. And you're like, no, that's my donation to you. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. I mean, that was solid. And then I found out later, as I got to know you even more and more, you like, even right now you're working on a clean water project.
Yeah. So for years I'm like, yeah, well, that's actually
because you don't have any extra time on your hands.
If you're not filling your time, you just
go ahead, Justin.
No, that's some everyday GSD shit right there.
That's some fucking everyday GSD shit right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I try and tell people is, if you're not filling your time, then you're just wasting it, So I think.
Say that again.
If you're not filling your time, you're just wasting it, Time goes by regardless of what you're doing. So you may as well fill it with good stuff, helping other people. And like when you talk about your charity, like it's really important to know it doesn't matter how many people you help. It's that one person. That's all that really matters, right? You help that one person, and then there has to be another one right afterwards, and then another one. And that's just how life works, and it just spirals, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I look for is small impact, big impact, everything all together. Just keep working towards doing it. Right?
Yeah.
And so I do a couple of different charity organizations I'm part of a couple of different organizations. One is based in Sonoma County because I like to keep it local. I like to be able to say that I help at-risk youth in Sonoma County.
At-risk youth?
Yeah, so people that are well below the poverty line, people that are either homeless or live in, like transient housing, that type of stuff where, they have kids and they're either a single mom, single parent in general, or they just need assistance to get their kids through everyday life.
Yeah. Fucking money for breakfast.
Totally. You know, a lot of the people that we work with, even in like a wealthy county like Sonoma County or Napa County, I mean, it's shocking how many kids go to school hungry. How many kids' only meal a day comes from school, right? And that's tragic, right? And so what we do is we do a massive back to school shopping thing, like a shopping spree where each one of our volunteers is hands-on. They take 2-3 kids hands-on shopping and they close down the entire mall in Santa Rosa. And we donate American Express gift cards and we go and shop with them. And it's like $250 per kid. This last year we did almost 600 kids in one day.
So how do you raise the money to do that?
So we do a couple of different events a year. We do like a big Battle of the Brews, it's called, which is a brewery competition. And it brings in about 2,000 people into the fairgrounds there. We sell tickets and we do vendor sponsors and things like that. And some of the years that brings in almost $250,000. And then we do, like, I host private dinners. I do a couple of different events a year. And then we also do, before COVID, we were doing all the fireworks shows in Sonoma County, one in Santa Rosa, one in Windsor, where we would, put on the big fireworks show with a big band and fill the fairgrounds with people and sell tickets. And so that was phenomenal. It was great exposure as well. So people would come and give donations.
So someone who donates $20, you're just as thankful to that person as someone who gives you $5,000.
Exactly. That's kind of the deal, right? There's no monetary limit, right? Giving's giving, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we really want to give back to our community in that way. The thing that I'm hands-on with pretty much all the time now is I created a clean water wine. So it's a wine that I actually created.
A what?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I created a wine that benefits.
The name of this show is called Everyday at GSD. If you haven't met Sam, fucking figure it out.
How do I get that connected to my faucet?
Yeah. The one's just pull the tab,
Right?
Yeah. Actually, it's right behind me. I don't know if the camera can see, but there's a bottle right there.
Actually, Justin, you want to grab that bottle?
Yeah. So it's a wine that I created years ago. It's in 2014, and all of the proceeds go to
It's the two in the middle. Keep talking about it.
All the clean water projects that I do in East Africa. So I partner with a company called Global Partners for Development, and they are an NGO based in Sonoma County. And we basically have done projects, many projects all over Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, mainly in elementary schools over there. And so we build deep water borehole wells, we build sanitization stations, we build latrines, things that like really rural areas in Africa don't get a chance to get, especially from the government or from other outside sources. And so I work with the Maasai a lot in Tanzania, in northern Tanzania, and in the Serengeti. It's great. You can go and feel like you're giving back, but you're also on safari at exactly the same time. So it's really fascinating. And then while I was here in Indiana, I actually just today got back from a project that hopefully is going to revolutionize some of the areas around like Lake Victoria or in really at-risk areas in Africa. It's basically flash boils water at 374 degrees Celsius.
Justin, listen to this shit.
Yeah.
He was explaining this to me before he went to this meeting, and unfortunately I couldn't go because I really wanted to.
Yeah. So it's like
continue.
Super critical water heating basically is what it does. And I'm not a scientist, so I won't get into too much of the technical stuff. But at 374 degrees and 200 bar, so 200 times the force of gravity, right, exerted on this water, it's in a state that's neither liquid or gas, and you can purify all of the heavy metals, all of the stuff out of basically like sewage. So you can take it and you can turn it into clean drinking water.
Like shit water, like
literally sewage from your toilet. It goes barely any treatment, just right into this machine that's in a 40-foot shipping container, and you can plonk them down pretty much anywhere. And you pump the sewage in, and clean water comes out the other side, as well as all of the minerals and stuff like that it's purifying out. And as a byproduct, it makes fertilizer because that's where all of the waste goes. Yeah.
And full disclosure, if any scientist or any like super techie person's listening to this and he said some of those numbers wrong, go fuck yourself.
Right.
Because he's getting shit done.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not the scientist. I didn't invent the product.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just here to try and implement it.
Full disclosure. If you want to argue this point, go fuck yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Because you went and saw this system.
When I'm trying to get it to Africa. That's the hard part, right? How do you get it from Kokomo, Indiana to Africa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's our project for the near future. Yeah.
And Kokomo, is that the cleanest water in America? No.
Muncie.
Muncie, Indiana has the cleanest drinking water.
Yeah, he's like America. An encyclopedia of knowledge.
Dude, you have no idea. He's a fucking wizard.
Yeah. Please, it's not about me, but tell me more about me.
Yeah. Do you want some more wine? By the way, this shit's good. What did you used to say to me? The juice or something? You'd say, a little more of the juice.
Yeah, you want a little bit more of that good juice? Yeah. That's actually a great one. I love that one. I'm good right now. I got
a long day ahead of us after the show. No, I love when you come to town, man. I know I'd say we can talk for hours, and we're probably going to, but just some of the shit that you do, literally, clean water.
I know, right? That's a good one. Yeah.
That's a good one. Put that on a t-shirt. No, it's interesting because even when you come here for the 500, you were at and don't quote me on this, but you were at the Nantucket Wine Festival like 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And you and a couple of your buddies from the wine world, it wasn't necessarily your winery, just wine friends. And you guys were like, hey, we're in Boston. We're going to be in Boston. Anyone want to grab a drink of wine or something? And I reached out to you guys. I was like, yeah, man, I got a place in Boston. This is years ago. And you guys all came and hung out. And then we were like, I'm like, hey, I got to leave tomorrow morning though, because I'm going to the Indy 500. And you guys were like, we can go to the Indy 500.
I actually remember it to this day. I remember meeting you, and I was like, man, that guy's the most interesting man in the world. Like, for real, though. And he's like, we're going to the Indy 500. I'm like, how do I change my plane ticket to go from Boston to California to Indiana?
Yeah.
And it was actually the first time I'd ever been to the 500. I changed it right then and there on the spot, and I flew with you to Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had such a blast, and we've never looked back.
Never looked back. Every year since, pretty much,
Yeah, he's coming this year. He's coming back.
That's right.
Yeah, he's coming back. Actually, when this episode will probably air right before the Indy 500, but he'll be back in a couple weeks for the Indy 500 when this airs, So Clean Water Project. Let's talk about the.
Before we move on from the Clean Water Project, there is one other thing. So one of the greatest things that I feel like personally motivated by is the projects that we do in Africa. So this last month I just spent about 3 weeks in Africa. I got back the first week in March, and I was able to go to a project that I had been to only once before when I had built it with the executive director back in 2016. And back then it was a school in rural Africa. You think Africa is rural, like in general, it is miles and miles, hours and hours in a truck on dirt roads just to get to this one little place. And it's where the Maasai village, like they have an actual village there because they're nomadic, so they roam around. But they actually have a school and a village there that we built. And we built the sanitization project first, and then built the one, like a little tiny classroom. And when we went last time, it was 20 students. And over the course of Global Partners working with a whole bunch of other donors and like a team of people and myself, we just went back there. And I can say I've never seen an impact like what we did in that project. And it kind of brings tears to my eyes. Like it's a real.
We cry on the show.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. It's the wine, right?
Yeah.
No, but it really does, because now we have over 400 students per class, 3 classes. So, and then because of the way that the government's been moving people out of like rural areas to give the land away to people doing safari tours and things like that, the Maasai have been impacted and pushed away. And so they're all congregating in this one area that we've designated as a real town now. So they can't do anything about it. So the government can't move them.
So you've protected a village. You've helped.
Almost accidentally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now there's over 3,000 people there. And I don't know if in the show notes you can link, but I have some great photos from before and after. They've
got a thumbs up from Justin.
Yeah, good, yeah.
Show notes.
Yeah, show notes. Yeah, but they've done from literally nothing in the plains of the Serengeti. Now they have over 100 acres of agriculture. They have 5 classrooms. They have 1,200 students and like the 3,000 parents and family members that are there too. And it's mind blowing the impact of just, it's that one little piece. And when you always say it's one person that you help, it's one little piece that turns into a much bigger project, right? And it just spirals more and more and more. That's really the impact that you have, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful. And, I had a guy on my show, Gary, and I'm going to have his wife on the show, Hope. If you haven't listened to that episode, you've got to go back. I was in Cabo and did that interview or that podcast, and we were talking about it. But if everyone just helped one person.
Right. Yeah. It's just a little bit of impact that makes a huge difference in the long run, right?
Mic drop.
Yeah, right.
If everyone helped one person. It's pretty fucking simple.
Yep.
And you're helping so many fucking people because...
Well, I have to be really clear. It's not just me.
No.
It's a huge team effort. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. But you're motivated by it. You get up and you get shit done because, you're obviously making great wine because I'm going to have super red teeth by the end of the day.
Right.
But you could be someone, and I know people like this. We're not naming anyone, but I know people that they want to make wine and they want everyone to know they're the winemaker and come see them and buy their wine, priced appropriately or overpriced, doesn't matter. But all they're trying to do is sell wine. They're trying to just fill their pockets. And I know for a fact because I've worked with you on projects.
Yep.
And again, I'll reference Sweep Away Cancer. When I called you up, I was probably midnight. I probably was drinking your wine. I go, hey, any chance you can send me some wine? You're like, yeah, I can send you wine and I'll be there. I'm like, man, it's a short notice. It's in 2 weeks. You're like, yeah, no problem.
Here, let me book my flight.
Yeah. And we did.
Any excuse to hang out with you.
Yeah, well, thank you. But we did that first event at Anthony's Chop House. Tony, the owner of Anthony's, and he was all in, 100%.
Yep.
And, boom, raising money for a cause, helping people.
And that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You talk about people in the wine business, and I always think I never want to take credit away from my dad because my dad is the winemaker. I tell people, he's the winemaker. Just because we do a lot of the stuff together, he's the man, right? And I have no desire to ever take that away from him or do that like a lot of people do. They want the title, they want the stuff. I'm not in it for that. I want to make great wine. And if the best way to do that is together now and always, then that's the plan. That's the product is the answer, and the customers that we've talked to they're the real answer, right?
Yeah.
If that's you can't make bad wine and then sell it to the same people because they won't buy it anymore.
Right.
Like it's just cause and effect, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about wine because I know I got a lot of listeners that drink wine.
Oh wait, speaking of.
Absolutely. So thank you. So I want you to talk about the wine because you guys don't just make a cab or a Pinot. You guys make, I don't know how many different varietals of wine, but I have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And let me lean in here for you. Let's talk about the wines because if you were doing a wine demonstration right now, and I've heard them because they're good, and people are like, God, that guy knows his shit. I'm like, it's his wine.
Well, the secret is just keep drinking it. That way you get more and more experience.
But like you've got wine named, when your dad named wine after his first love,
right? So it's really important to talk about my parents because it is their passion that really started the whole brand, right? Yeah. They named it after themselves because they didn't want any competition from somebody else. It's Williamson Wines, right?
Okay, so this one, for example, is the cat.
It's called Seduce. I know.
Right.
So my mom always wanted a romance theme. Even before we had a winery, she said, hey, if we're ever going to make wine, let's have it be like romantic. Because it's romantic for the two of us. We sit together, we drink a great bottle of wine. And the other one's Passion, the one that we just finished. Passion, I know. It makes me a little nauseous because they're my parents, but everybody else loves it, But the wines are great because they wanted this romance theme. And my dad surprised my mom with it. The very first two wines that they made a Chardonnay and a Merlot. They were the two wines that they drank more than anything else. So she loved classic French Chardonnay, like a Montrachet style Chardonnay, and he called it Amourette and surprised her with it. And it means like a little love affair in French. It's like romantic, right, for the two of them. And I think that she cried for a week. It was so cute.
Yeah.
And then he called the other one Amour Merlot because it's like the little love and the big love, right? And so the lighter wine and the heavier one. And then every year since then, they name the new ones, and they do it in a really funny way. I have no input on the names because they said that's our thing, right? And
they're doing good at it.
Well, you know why is that this is so funny when
you wanted to name one Darin.
Yeah. That's
Justin,
exactly right.
The Justin wine.
I think that's taken. Yeah.
Oh, actually,
yeah. Please don't sue us. Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Fuck off. Yeah. So what they did was, this is so adorable. They sat down by the pool that they have at their house. They would get a sample of the wine, like a big bottle's worth, They would drink the whole thing, and while they're drinking it, they would jot down little names on a notepad. And the one that stuck, that was representative of what the wine tasted like and how they felt when they were drinking it, that's what went on the wine.
Get the fuck out of here. That's how they created the names?
Every single one of those little fanciful names that's on there, every one of them, that's how they do it. And even to this day, if we come up with a new wine, they'll be like, we need 2 days.
And how many wines do you guys have?
So we make between 35 and 40 different wines a year. And that's not to say different varietals. It's different wines.
No, I got
like
you.
a lot of the wines are Bordeaux blends or Rhone blends or things like that. And so like I might make 20 different wines, like actual varietals, and then I blend them together. And so we make everything from like big, bold, like beautiful cabs to all of the standalone varietal Bordeauxs, Pinot, Chard, both of the Burgundies. We make Champagne. It's actually one of our specialties. We make Rhone varietals like Shiraz because we're Australian, so we don't call it Syrah, even though they're the same wine.
So Syrah and Shiraz is the same wine.
They're identical wines.
Look at Google over there.
Google. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, but
I did think one was from Australia and one from Spain. That's not the case.
No, so like the French Syrah is from like the Rhone region in France. Yeah, the northern Rhone. So
are they different wines?
No, they're the same wine.
They're just spelled differently.
Yeah, they're just spelled different.
Yeah, so it happened.
The pronunciation.
Yeah, well, because like I guess the story goes, and I don't know, you'll have to fact check me on this one, but the story goes is
no one cares.
No one cares.
I mean, we care, but no one's fact checking.
No,
Paul Giamatti cares.
Paul Giamatti
You'll
cares.
not drink a Merlot.
Yeah. And I make and sell more Merlot than anything else.
And originally when that movie came out, didn't it fuck up the Merlot business?
For big wineries like Gallo? Absolutely it did. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and everybody switched to Pinot. Actually, the funniest part in my area is that a lot of people ripped out amazing Merlot vineyards and planted Pinot, but in the wrong spot.
Because of that fucking movie?
Because of that fucking movie. I know. It's wild.
Power of movies, baby.
Yeah, well, they're like consumers are going to
go with the movie maker.
Yeah,
He's the movie maker.
Yeah. Yeah, so and so there are all these like Pinot vineyards that never thrived.
And what was the name of that movie again?
Sideways.
Sideways. For anyone who's listening and doesn't know that, wake the fuck up. You got to watch this movie. It's a good movie.
It's pretty funny. Yeah,
it's funny.
If you just ignore all of the wine part, like,
well, I mean, because you're a professional, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, that's annoying. Like that's bullshit. But like the movie's funny.
Yeah, I always tell people, if you like the wine and you enjoy drinking it, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, like somebody else's opinion shouldn't sway you.
It's like you, Darin, watching those special operator movies. None of that shit's real that you see in the movies.
Drives me fucking nuts.
I'm sure it drives you nuts. It's the same way with Sideways for him.
I always thought that Darin's time in the military was like Expendables, like every single one.
Expendables.
Yeah, but apparently not. Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, so that's how they named the wines, and we grew and grew and grew kind of organically. So we decided never to sell through distribution. We never wanted to sell to somebody that wasn't going to be the end consumer of our wine because we wanted to talk to them all. We wanted to say, what do you think about that? Do you enjoy it? Don't buy it if you don't like it. And people loved it.
You don't sell to restaurants, or
I don't sell to restaurants. I don't sell in stores. I don't sell anywhere through like those online wine clubs. I do none of that. So I make the wine and I sell it all direct to my customers, like my wine club.
So I own a beautiful restaurant,
yep,
quote unquote, right? And I want to sell your wine. I love your wine. I love you. I love the story. I love your parents. I love the vision. You won't sell me that wine.
Well, the difference is I'd be willing to do like tons of wine dinners with you and really engage with you and make sure that like your customers had a great time. I'd invite more people to your restaurant, like from my end, like my customers, and we could share customers. But I just don't want my wines being on a shelf anywhere. I don't want them on a list. I purposely don't market like that. I don't do my magazine publications. I don't do like any of that stuff. It's all word of mouth, 100% organic growth.
That's called class.
It's called class.
Well,
that's some everyday GSD class.
That should be the sub on the shirt.
It's not the Everyday GSD podcast. It's Everyday GSD class.
Yeah. But that's really been our focus ever since. And so what we do is we take great wines that we make, and then we do one extra thing. We say, how do people drink them? A lot of people drink them like we do.
Listen to this.
Right? A lot of people are sitting here and they're probably listening to this and having a glass of wine, and hopefully it's Williamson Wines. But even if it's not, if they're enjoying it, that's all that matters.
And real quick, if you wanted to get Williamson Wine and you're listening to this podcast, obviously we're going to put all these links, but what would they do? They just go to your website, sign up to be like a club member or something.
Yeah, so they
can buy 1 bottle, 2 bottles, or to try it.
Sure. Yeah.
See if they like it. And
you can go online. You can buy a bottle. I'll ship it to you. It just goes,
Yep. Or they can come out to one of your tasting rooms,
which is probably a better option for a lot of people, just because that way you get to try a whole bunch of different wines. And if you contact us in advance and you said that you were listening to Darin's podcast, then I will give you a complimentary tasting at the winery.
Oh, shit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Say that again.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this podcast and you reach out to Sam, his winery, and you mention that you listen to the Everyday GSD podcast and heard this podcast, he's going to give you a complimentary wine tasting. And I can tell you for a fact, that's fucking amazing, because I've been to the wine tasting. You will leave very happy.
Very happy. And then what I do too is...
Thank you.
Oh, of course. It's my pleasure. Yeah. And so what we do is kind of the next level is we always think, how do people use the wine? We can drink them, we can enjoy them, but most of the time, like, we'll have a glass of wine and then I'll look at you and be like, what do you got in your fridge? And so how you use the wine is really with food. And so what we do is we design a lot of the different wines to be working with specific foods. And so that's why we make so many different ones, is that some of them work with specific foods. Like my dad makes a wine for himself. He calls it Entice Cuvée. And it's a wine that he makes to go with his favorite food, which is peppered steak. So if you love a great peppered steak, that's how we make it. We sit down, it's peppered steak, blend the wine to taste, and you know that every single vintage, no matter what, it's always going to work with that food. And that's like above and beyond what pretty much anybody else does in the wine business, because it's almost like an afterthought what food goes with, but we think about it way before.
You guys also have and I might be using the wrong terminology, so please correct me, even though it's my show. Please correct me. Yep. You will send spices, recipes.
Yeah, so with every wine that people get as part of the wine club, I send recipes to pair with them. Whether you want them or not, you're going to get them.
Yeah.
And so what it allows you to do is you don't even have to actually cook those ones, although it's amazing if you do cook them, because it's like the perfect pairing.
And these are done by, these recipes are like, I've made some of them, and I've had people over while we've cooked them, and they're like, oh shit, 5-star chef Darin. And I'm like, follow the directions.
Well, that's the secret, is that I look at recipes that a lot of people put out, and they're so complex that it's almost impossible to do. And so I want people to have a great experience, be able to cook the food in like an hour, under an hour. Shop for it at any grocery store in America. So you don't have to be, in Chinatown finding, all sorts of different things that you don't know what you're doing.
Starties.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you don't need to find those things. It's pretty much great food that's easy to do that works with the wine perfectly, because our focus is that we have this great wine by itself and a great dish by itself that you could just cook and eat. But when you put them together in the right combination, they're better than either one alone. And that's the ultimate focus of pairing food and wine for us.
It's like you're an artist.
Well, I don't know about that, but I think that it's a really cool experience that allows people to really enjoy what they're eating and drinking, right? It's something that's different than just, going and throwing a steak on the grill and grabbing a red wine. It's not like that. It's a little bit more in depth, but it's done for you, so you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's like you're an artist. He's like, I'm not an artist.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not an artist.
Well, I think that, there's a lot of artists out there that are much more talented than I am when it comes to that. So, yeah. But
I mean, like I said, I've done some of your recipes, and I don't want to use the word basic, but they were easy. That I love to cook.
Yep.
Self-proclaimed chef here, and I call myself that. But any real chef, my friend Ralph, who was on the show, who's a chef down in the Caribbean, is probably listening to this and go, he's not a fucking chef, he's a hack. But I fucking love to cook, right?
Yep.
And you were sending me like the spices and herbs, and there was this one thing you put on cheese with a little olive oil.
Oh, so, yeah, it's like a nut mixture.
Yeah.
Yep. So
and it's the most basic thing ever, but it's complex.
Yeah, it's like a nut and spice mixture. It's cumin, coriander, sesame, roasted almonds, and hazelnuts all ground together.
Yeah.
But it's like the ultimate best spice combination for one of the
ones.
And
and if you're listening to this, back it up and listen to that again, because it will blow your mind. And you get a nice hard cheese, a little olive oil, and then you dip the drop it on there, nibble on it.
And you can do that. What you're really meant to do with it is like a bowl of olive oil with a little bit of balsamic in it, and then like a French bread, and you dip it in the olive oil, and then like a baguette, and then dip it in the nuts and eat it straight like that. And it's like great.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, it's great like poolside or beachside.
So did I just create the cheese thing?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So
It's
good.
great. Isn't it?
I take like a hard cheddar, like a Vermont cheddar cheese.
Well, we did that together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's great.
It's great.
I always use that, Irish cheddar one,
Yeah.
because it's easy.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, and
Yeah. I have to give homage to the East Coast people.
Of course, yeah.
So the Vermont cheddar is the best cheddar.
Yep.
And my friend Jake in Wisconsin's saying right now, Darin, the Wisconsin cheese is better. And Jake, you're right. You bring me the best cheese and the best sausages and venison and all that stuff. But he doesn't bring me the fucking wine you do.
Right. Yeah. Well, he's half the deal, right? Yeah.
So right now, what's the next thing for you? Like, what do you do? I mean, your parents created this wheel that keeps turning. You're a very important spoke in it, right? And you've now bought another winery.
Yeah. So I'm halfway through,
Or
I guess, the next phase, right? And so for years,
carrying on the tradition.
yeah, we're just expanding in different directions. Like I took the show on the road, so to speak, when we were doing traveling events with Wine Club and doing dinners and events. And so that was one avenue that we're continuing to go down. But then the next step is in June of last year, we bought a very old established.
Can we say the name?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's Yoakum Bridge Winery, right in the heart of Dry Creek Valley. It's an 1880s.
Wait, say it again.
Yoakum, not like Dwight Yoakam, spelled differently.
Okay.
Yoakum Bridge Winery.
Yeah, this is a very nice place.
Yeah, it's stunning. Yeah, so it's like an 1880s farmhouse with
Yeah.
a full winery on it. And it was owned by a couple for the last 30 years that never really expanded. It was their lifestyle business. They enjoyed living there. They enjoyed making wine. And it has a 100-year-old Zinfandel vineyard. So when I took it over, my thought...
100 years.
Yeah, my thought is I'm not the owner of this vineyard. I'm just a custodian of it until the next person takes over. Because when you have history like that, it's something that you can't replicate. Like you can't really buy it. Like they don't come up that often. I found it because I've known them for years. And
you told me before, and sorry to interrupt, I apologize, but I want to ask this because you told me this before. A lot of people that have wineries, when it's time for them to leave the business, whether by age, health, or it's just they're done, the good wineries, they don't just go out technically on the open market. They want to sell it to someone who is going to continue their legacy.
Right. And that's what I basically promised the two
Right.
of them because they didn't have kids that wanted to take it over. And understandably so. They were in their 80s. Their kids were in their mid 60s. So they had full careers. They're retired. They don't want to start again, And so it's really it's kind of fortuitous that I would walk up to them and be like, "Hey, what are you planning on doing with it?"
Right.
And so I said, "Well, I'm happy to carry on the legacy, but I'm gonna add my own character to it and make it kind of what it should be, right? Because for 30 years they lived there and enjoyed making great wines themselves, but never really expanded. They made the exact same amount in year 1 as they did in year 20. So like
What?
Yeah, I know, it's wild, right? Yeah, so they never really made more wine, but that's understandable, right? It was their version of like retirement, right? They wanted to work, but not like completely work harder.
Is this kind of like Jerry?
No, it's kind of like Jerry, yeah, a little bit. Well, I mean, him and his Diane had a huge like career beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a lifestyle business.
Fuck,
for a lot
I
of
love
people.
their wine too.
Yeah, I love their wine too. Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite brands.
And their whole everything.
Yeah, I mean, the jokes alone from Jerry are worth the price of admission. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so what we did was we said,
How do we buy that winery?
I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. Yeah, maybe next week.
You
Yeah.
remember when we were all drinking in the cave and he goes, I'd sell it to you.
Yeah.
Well, can we handshake that deal right now?
Yeah, right. We should have locked it in at prices back then. Yeah. 10 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. But that's kind of, you're right. When it comes to like next generation wines and how wineries are transitioned, there's a huge amount of consolidation if it goes on the open market. So like if somebody lists a great winery for sale, a huge conglomerate will try and buy it, mainly for the brand alone. And if it has a great destination tasting room, they'll run it like a business through there. And what I said was, like I want to keep it with our same values. I'm not going to take it and put it on every shelf in America. That wasn't my point. I'm going to just make it ours as well, right? And so we carry on the legacy, but make it ours as well. Put our
So
own
what's
flair
the
on it.
difference? And Justin, I want you to get involved in this one because Justin's a pretty smart guy, I guess. So you've got a wine company that produces, What does someone like Justin produce? Not this Justin. Like,
I have no real idea. Maybe,
okay,
maybe 100,000 cases.
Okay,
200,000 cases.
Or pick another winery that you know that's like they're in Walmart and they're on the menu.
Oh, sure. Like Silver Oak's a good example, or Jordan or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so Silver Oak. So you're paying, $100+ a bottle of Silver Oak. Depends on where you're buying it and how you're getting it. So that model is 1,000% different than your model.
Yep.
Right? But now in your industry, do you look at that model and look at that winery and go, yeah, fuck those guys?
No, I mean, like, they're my neighbors, so I would never say that. But
and maybe that's a bad example of using Silver Oak because I don't want you put you on the spot with Silver Oak.
No.
Let's call it X wine.
Yeah, and it's not about in my mind, it's not about like fuck those guys or like I don't like what they're doing, so fuck them. It's they have a different business. Their business,
it's a different business.
It isn't I'm not even in the wine business really. I'm in the lifestyle business. I'm about making wines and letting people use them like they're intended to be used.
He just toasted you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're not in the wine business. You're in the lifestyle business.
Yeah, because that's the wine business. The wine business is 3-tier distribution. The wine business is going through to every, show in America and showing their wines and stuff like that. It's not what I do. Like I can't remember the last time I was at like a competition. I think the last one I entered was 2010, and it was like because they asked me to.
So for Darin to understand, it's like a blockbuster movie versus an independent film.
Fuck you.
Right? I mean,
yeah, you're right, Justin.
He's doing that classy independent film thing, and it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's not Top Gun.
Yeah. Well, okay, speaking of lifestyle, maybe we could do, and I'm just going to throw this out there, and I don't know how, because I don't, but maybe we could do like an everyday GSD event. Justin, what do you got?
A listener event, we'll take some listeners up to your winery and have a tasting, like an annual,
like a tasting, like
an annual everyday GSD podcast listener event.
Why not?
Yeah,
not? And I don't know how we can do that.
I'll set it all up for you.
Yeah, when we're all done the show, but because I can tell you, I know a lot of my listeners drink wine. And they drink tequila and Miller Lite.
Yeah. and this is all a lifestyle. His wine's a lifestyle. Everyday GSD is a lifestyle. It's a perfect thing to.
Well, and you literally, I've got the whole point of being on the show. All my guests, they get shit done, right? It's about someone who gets shit done, and whether it's Christy Lee, who is now in the Hall of Fame of radio, or it's Gary Brackett, who basically was the biggest underdog for Rutgers and then became an NFL captain and a Super Bowl champion, or I've got these guests that are on the show that truly get shit done. And so I was telling a couple of my friends that listen to the show, and I said, I got this guy Sam going to be on the show, and he's a winemaker. And they're like, yeah, I never met a winemaker. And I take it for granted because I met you. We've been friends for years now, but when I met you, I had no idea the business. Like I didn't even understand it, right? And then you kind of gave me like the wine 101 30-second. Here's how it works.
Well, after a bottle of wine, all the truths come out, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it was so impressive because I didn't realize. And again, I got to go back to this, and Justin's probably going to tell me later. He's like, you didn't need to tell that whole story again because I'm sharing the same story. But literally, I was staying at your guest house, and you guys woke up in the morning and you went to fucking work, like literally farming. But I'm thinking the winemaker. Oh, he's the winemaker. No, you were like, in mud and fucking cutting down shit, and
we're doing real work. Yeah.
Doing real work.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, but like in the winery, it's not just drinking wine. There's a lot of real work that goes on there. Like those guys work hard. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that needs to get done. Last thing I want to do these days is clean the inside of one of those stainless steel tanks, and especially when you have 20 of them. Start here. By next week, you'll be done with the last one. It's brutal. Yeah,
because I think sometimes people think they have this idea that
they romanticize it. That's what it is.
Yeah. I want to open a bar in the Caribbean. Little. Well, you got to bust your ass to do that, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much money you have. You still got to fucking get up in the morning. You got to do it, right? So I want to own a winery, right? Well, that's great, and you can. Anyone can.
Yep.
You want to write a check, you can do anything you want.
Yep.
But at the end of the day is how are you going to make that successful? and impactful in your community. And I think that's what your mom and dad did. And I want to give 100% props to both of them. Besides raising a great family and an extremely intelligent son, but they instilled this everyday GSD lifestyle in you, but you didn't take anything for granted. And you're like, how can I give back to help other people?
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of people are missing in the business world. They just kind of want to do, oh, I need to make the money. I need to make the money. I need to make the money. And at the end of the day, if you can make the money, but you can also give back, then you're winning on both directions. And the tide rises, all boats float.
Exactly right. And
right?
There's been definite times when, giving my time or energy or, making the wines has really propagated my other businesses. Like it's really worked well together. The synergy is there. So when you meet people that are, of a giving mind, then they also want to be part of what you're doing, right. Whether it's that one project that you're doing or everything that you're doing, it's kind of like a small collective of people that really want to give back and they want to celebrate each other by, supporting them by buying some wine or drinking some wine together and sharing great stories or anything like that. It's really great,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't see too many people drinking wine at a table and all of a sudden someone wants to fucking punch someone in the face.
Yeah.
It's not common.
Doesn't really happen. Yeah.
I mean, it might happen. It's not common.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also do wine tours.
Right.
Like you get on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
That you guys.
That's actually a great story. When we first started, my parents had never been on a cruise ever in all of their years. Never did it. Never had any desire to do it. I said, hey, what do you think about doing this? And they're like, absolutely not. I'm like, well, but it makes a lot of sense. Like we can take them out. We can go and visit some really cool spots, wine regions around the world on the boat. And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, you don't have to go. And so I didn't tell him. Yeah, I didn't tell him, but I signed the contract and I sent it in and I sent out an email and I got 40 people signed up for the cruise. And I said, I'm going. Are you coming? And they said, well, I'm not letting you go by yourself. Where are you going? Yeah. Yeah. And so they popped on. Now we do one every year because they loved it.
Yeah. And your next one is.
Well, the next one.
Amalfi Coast? No.
It was kind of like that. So it was scheduled to go from.
I'm going.
Yeah. Right. It was supposed to 10 days.
We're all going.
Yeah. Yeah. We could have a podcast on the boat. Yeah.
Actually, we could. And you know what? Maybe, Dad probably doesn't want to be on the podcast, but he might have a couple glasses of wine and be on the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. That'd be a good one.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden Mom's on the podcast too. And they're both like, how?
Oh, you'd have to do both of them at the same time on the podcast.
Absolutely. We've got the equipment.
Yeah.
Justin runs this shit.
Yeah. They're like the perfect yin and yang to each other too.
Yeah.
When you talk to them,
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about the cruise. How's it work?
Sorry. So the next one is it starts in Monaco and it goes like down the Amalfi Coast, like past Rome all the way down to like Naples area, and then it comes back into Sardinia and then goes through Saint-Tropez and ends in Barcelona.
And you guys, it's basically there's a set fee. I'm gonna make up a number, $10,000, $15,000, whatever it is, per couple, per person, whatever, and that gets you the room on the boat and all your food and drinks.
Yeah, but the best part is that I years ago we decided that we're not going to half-ass this, right? So a lot of people send like a couple of cases of wine or they bring it as check luggage. I shipped a pallet of wine the first time, and now I'm shipping like 80 cases of wine to the boat for everybody on board. So it's like a bottle of wine per person per day that I budget, which is way more than we ever really need. But it allows me to do really cool stuff. Like I do tasting seminars on the boat. I do a full like 10-course dinner on the boat. And I work with the chef and we build like the menu from scratch. And they always say to me like it's the best time of my yachting days.
Yeah, because they love it.
Yeah, because it's not the same.
It's not the same
regurgitated food,
Yeah.
And so they love it, and they get to drink the wine too. It's the only time they get to drink on the boat. And then we do like private shore tours where people get to go and I introduce them to winemakers that I know. Say we're in France and we're going up to Burgundy. Well, we'll go up to Burgundy and we'll meet some people that I know personally. They'll take us to their wineries, have lunch with us, and have a great afternoon. And then we'll go back to the boat, sail on an export.
And then you sail to the next port.
Yeah.
It's just sailor with no paycheck.
Sailor with no paycheck. It's the opposite. You pay to do it. Yeah.
A big paycheck.
Big paycheck, right?
Yeah. And the next one's 2024, correct?
24, yep.
24, yeah. Maybe we should look into that. Get a little crew together.
I'm looking at their website. So for all the listeners, check out the website, williamsonwines.com. There's some trips on here that are, I mean...
I do also do one to Australia every year.
Yeah, there's Kentucky Derby, Austin, Florida, the Indy 500, Nantucket. I mean, there's all kinds of shit on here.
Look at him. He's like a little kid. He's like,
I want to go to all of them.
Do you want to just follow me around? Yeah?
Yes, I do. Hello. Do you need a podcast, sir?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Peace out, Darin.
Yeah, so peace out. Everyday GSD. Now it's Sam Everyday GSD.
It'd be like Anthony Bourdain meets all wine all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We just came up with a whole new fucking show.
Yeah.
It's Sideways and Anthony Bourdain put together.
Yeah. And Everyday GSD gets fucking jammed in there.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got to get shit done to be able to do this.
Totally.
And that's a true statement, right? Like, because people, it's funny. I was at an event recently and someone said, this is actually funny to me. They said, you're lucky you get to go and travel. Like, I went to Jamaica with my wife. I was in Hawaii. She won a trip to Hawaii, Circle of Excellence. She's a fucking machine in her world. That's the resident bartender there. I love her. One day she's going to be behind there and she's going to pop up. But so this guy said
I have to tell you a quick story just to interrupt.
Go ahead.
The first time I came here, you had that hidden in the other room. And I walked down the stairs. It was the middle of the night after a couple of glasses of wine. And I turned the corner and there was Jonica standing there in her cheerleader outfit. And it scared the shit out of me. I almost dropped to the ground. I almost fell down the last 3 stairs.
I love it.
It was incredible.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I used to move her around and put her in windows. Like if I was going to head out of town, I'd put her in the window so people were like, what the fuck is that?
Remember that 3-minute baby story with a Ted Danson ghost in the window? Do you guys remember this shit?
No, but you know.
Never mind.
I mean, don't leave us hanging.
Well, that movie 3-Minute and a Baby?
Yeah.
Remember that? There was that whole ghost thing where it was Ted Danson's ghost as a little boy, and there's that one scene.
I don't know any movies. I don't even know what 3 Men and a fucking baby is.
The camera
it had Tom Selleck in it.
It did have Tom Selleck, but the camera pans a window, and there's literally, you see Ted Danson as a little kid, and there was this whole story about it was his ghost or whatever. Well, Tom Selleck and Steve Guttenberg were playing a joke on Ted Danson and got a cardboard cutout like that of Jonica and put it in the window, and it was just of him as a kid. So this whole thing became, it was his ghost, and it's
like an Easter egg in the movie.
Yeah, it's like an Easter egg in the movie.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I don't even know the movie.
Yeah, we should watch it later.
Baby?
Yeah, no, man. I don't know any of that shit. Or I just don't know that shit.
Yeah.
So I lost my train of thought.
No, we were talking about how everybody looks at like the
cruises
and stuff like that. They think it's so easy. Yeah.
No. So this guy says to me, he goes, it must be nice. And normally when someone says that, I'm like, yeah, it's nice. But then I thought about it, and there's a guy named Dom Facette. He's on social media. He did a couple events with me. He was part of Warrior Leadership Conference that we put on for raise money for Warrior Horse, which is a foundation that Kevin started to help veterans with PTSD and traumatic brain injury. And anyway, Dom was at this event with me, and he had told me this one time this story, and I kind of compartmentalized it and put it in my head. And then fast forward to I'm traveling recently, and this guy goes, "Oh, it must be nice." And I go, "Yeah, it is." And his answer was basically, "No, fuck you. I work my ass off. It's not. It is nice.
Yep.
And if you want to do this, go out and get shit done.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you can go and do these nice things. But don't think like this has just been given to me." And I preference that because when my friends meet you and they're like, "Oh, Sammy's got this winery in California. Like, it must be nice. He's traveling all around at the Nantucket Festival and the here and here and here." I'm like, this dude busts his ass.
Well, the joke is, I wish that the bottle just grew on the tree like this, and it just hung, and you just pick them off and sold them to people. But that's just not how it works.
It's not how it works.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds, if you can, which is probably impossible.
This is like rapid fire.
Yeah, rapid fire.
Yeah.
Or maybe 60 seconds. The process. You take a grape. Walk me through this real quick.
So the worst part is actually starting from dirt, right? So you start from dirt, and then you plant the vines, which takes about a year to fully do because you got to put the steel in, then you got to plant the vines, and then you have to wait because the vines don't make fruit like right away. It's not like you plant corn and then 3 months later you're harvesting corn. It's you plant it, then you wait 3 years, then you might get a little tiny crop. which you can't really make great wine from. Then you wait a couple more years, and they only reach full maturity after 7 years. So like
7 years.
Yeah, so you're 9 years in the hole before you get your first like real full vintage of like mature fruit. Yeah, you can make wine in year 4, 5, and 6, absolutely, and you can make decent wine from it. But realistically, year 7 is when you start making like the ultra premium level wines, and then they plateau for like 20 years. But that period of time is your window, and so you basically what happens is they go dormant in the winter. Then in the spring they bloom. They shoot up canes. They put leaves out, and then they put little buds out, and then those little buds turn into clusters of grapes. They go from really tiny little green like berries, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, filled with flavor, water, and they turn. If they're a red wine grape, they turn red. A process called veraison, and it's where the grape literally changes color to be red. And obviously the white wines don't do that, right? And then after usually around October-ish, the sugar content in the grape and the ripeness level in the grape is high enough to where you harvest it. And those things are one of the most challenging things to dictate because, like you can have high sugar and low ripeness, which is the worst kind of combination. You get high alcohol wines that taste like tart, and that's not what you want. So like that's the art, like that's the art of growing grapes.
The art, I knew it.
Right.
Art.
But that's the art of growing grapes. And that's why viticulture is a completely separate degree than enology, which is making wine, right? Because there's so much detail in each one that they have to be completely separate degrees, and one is real farming and the other one is winemaking, right? And so once you harvest them, you make them, you ferment them, and then you usually for red wines, you'll throw them into a barrel, usually a French oak. In my case, I only use French oak. Throw them in there for 18 to 24 months. And you don't.
So 18 to 24 months, we're 7 years in. So now we're 10 years into this process.
Yeah, if you start from scratch, you're a decade away from making your first real wine.
Good wine.
Good wine. Yeah, you can make, don't get me wrong.
But again, you could buy a winery but I'm talking.
Yeah, if you're doing it yourself, yeah.
Yep, just like you guys started.
Yeah.
Like your mom and dad started.
Yeah.
1979, they came to California from Australia and said, "This is what we're fucking doing."
Yep.
Or maybe that was
1990 is when they.
Yeah,
they
I'm
started,
sorry. Yeah, they came. Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Oh, totally. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so then your other real job takes place. You gotta sell the wine, right? It's we drink a lot of wine. That's great, but like, there's no way that you can drink 5,000 cases of wine a year. And then the funniest part is the next year you can make the same amount. So then you're at 10,000 cases, and it's one after another after another. Right?
Yeah.
They keep coming. And so you have to be able to sell it.
So the business is it's like, so as a manufacturer is my stainless steel manufacturing company, not my podcast or any of my book or any of that stuff. When you start talking about the business of winemaking, it's still the same as a true manufacturing type of business where you're bringing in the raw materials. You're just growing them, right?
Right.
You're farming them, but then you have to sell them, right? So you need salespeople, or you need the sales aptitude because you maybe can't afford salespeople, so you have to do that. You've got to have AR and AP, accounts receivable and accounts payable,
of course, yeah.
Because so it's a total business model that is from the ground level up, literally dirt, starting with dirt.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why. A lot of people,
because you buy the land, you're starting with dirt.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people take shortcuts here and there, and you get wines that might not be of the best quality. The biggest shortcut that people take, which isn't really a shortcut, is they never invest in the real estate of dirt. They never invest in that. They don't buy vineyards. They just create a wine brand and they buy fruit. And that's the old world dynamic. That's what.
We have a friend that did that.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. For 100 years, people did that though because they're so different a process that, in France, hundreds of years, somebody would grow the grapes, then they would never make wine. Somebody else would make wine, even if they were in the same family or the same whatever. But they were two separate real people. And now in America, especially, they were two completely separate sides. One's a wine grape grower and one's a winemaker. And then there was a third party, which was back before, well, it still is, but not for me, is distribution. So you would have somebody come to the winery that was a distributor, and they would buy, 10 pallets of your wine and then put it in Kroger's, like that type of stuff, right? Or in great restaurants or whatever, depending on what tier of product you were making. And that was the model.
Yeah.
And we said we don't want to be part of that model.
I remember when Tony Chop House, who's very involved with Superboy Cancer and loves you. The three of us have a great relationship.
Yep.
And when he said, I would like to feature your wine in my restaurant, and you go, no.
Yeah. Sorry, man. Yeah.
So I can't do it. It's like, no, we can do it. And he wasn't being a jerk. He was actually being like respectful to you, saying, come on, I mean, this wine right here, this cab, it's some of the best cab I've ever had. And the price point is
even better.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And now I can put my upcharge on it and sell it to my customers. And you're like, no, I'll do an event here though.
Yep. Yeah, he can make all the money he wants on an event, or like that's that symbiotic relationship with the restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Is that just because I don't sell wine to them to continue to, sell on to their customers, doesn't mean that we can't have a good partnership. And that's what really works for me. That's why I'm able to go back to the same places again and again and again, because they see it work. And the best part for a lot of them is that I partner with places like Tony. It's great because it brings in a whole new customer base that he would never have contact with. Because I have people, when I did an event in Indianapolis years ago, I had only half the people come from Indiana. I had people from Kentucky. I had people from Ohio.
Yeah.
They drove hours and hours and hours just to come because I have customers that have never been back to the tasting room in 10 years. So when I come here, they're like, I'll drive 2 hours to get there. Absolutely. Because that's easy, right? It's not 4 hours in a plane.
Yeah, it's like 5 hours in a plane and 2 layovers in a snowstorm.
Well, and plus, the money too, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
So, yep. But you did harp on a really specific point though that I think that is worth mentioning is the price of wine. And I think that's really different. Something that we do that's really different is like that bottle of Cab drinks like it's a $250 bottle of Cab. But I don't charge $250 for it. I make it reasonably priced so that everybody has access to great wine. That's something that really isn't done a lot, because if you make a great product, you kind of want to get as much for it as possible. I just don't want to alienate my fan base, right? My customers.
Yeah.
Because that would just be silly to me. I'd rather let them enjoy it, have a great wine that drinks way outside of its price category, but it's for them, right? I don't make it for I make it for me, but I don't make it to win awards. I don't make it to do things like that. I don't want
because you're winning awards every day with your customers.
Exactly, and I don't want to, and I don't want to be in that game of who makes the most expensive wine in the world. Nobody cares about that. Only a handful of people care about that, and they're not my customers, right? And so I make wine that people enjoy and they can actually drink. They don't have to save it for a special occasion. Tuesday you had a really rough day. Cook the recipe and drink that bottle of wine. Make your day better, instantly. Right?
Yeah, there's a guy named Chris Pryor in my chimney inventing industry. He's a wizard. He's like a engineer. He's a master mason. He does all this cool stuff. And he's a big wine drinker. And I've given him some nice wine. He's given me some nice wine. And I said, here's a nice bottle of wine. It's from my friend's winery, Williamson Wine. You'll love this wine. And he goes, oh, I'll save this for a special day. I go, fuck that, man. Drink it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And he goes, what? And I go, yeah, man. Just you wake up one morning and you just want a good glass of wine. In the evening time, you just go, you know what? It's Wednesday. I'm drinking this wine. Just drink the wine. Yep. You have a wine cellar with 1,000 bottles and you're saving this one for a special day. Just drink them.
Yeah.
That's where they were made for. I'm not saying don't save it for 10 years because you were waiting for it to develop, but just drink the wine.
Right. And
that's what it's for, right?
And that's a huge issue that I see a lot of people do is they save wines and they never drink them. People
who have storage containers, I put the wine, I'm like,
well, no, even worse than that is they
fucking killing me.
Well, they wait too long, and then the wine isn't as good as it could have been. That's the worst, right? Because you had all that potential in that bottle, and all you have to do is open and drink it.
Yeah.
Should have. Yeah.
Okay, we've been at this for a little while, and I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I'm thankful for you. Obviously, I have a little gift for you, but before we do that, do you have a message for the listeners? Whether it's a wine message, an everyday GSD message, giving back, your charities. All the stuff that you do. If someone's listening to the show and they get this one little tidbit and they're like, you know what, that's what I need to do in life. What is your everyday GSD message to the listeners?
Yeah, I think we touched on it right at the beginning of the show when we said it doesn't matter what massive impact you have. If you can give back and just change the life of one person, you'll never regret it. It'll only get better and better every single time you do it. And I think that's a focus for a lot of people that they should focus on that,
100%. Yep. So you blew me away by that hat.
Yeah.
And you see the new hats we have. So because you're an everyday GSD motherfucker, I've got the newest hat for you.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, so this is a little gift for you for being on the show. I won't be able to reach you because I don't have long enough arms, but I'm just going to slide it over there.
Thank you.
And thanks for being on the show, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do for tons of people and people that have no idea that the impact that you are doing across the country, in your community personally, and around the world. You're a good human, man, and I'm just proud to call you a friend, and thank you for being on the show, brother.
Thank you. I'm honored to be on the show. Thank you.
All right, brother. Thank you. Thanks for watching the Everyday GSD podcast. Episodes come out on the 1st and 15th of the month. If you want to watch people or listen to people that Everyday GSD, please download and subscribe wherever you listen or watch the Everyday GSD podcast. Everyday GSD.